Welcome to the Network Marketing Made Simple podcast. I am your host, Scott Aaron, and each and every week I'm going to come to you with short, simple, and powerful tactics of how you can grow your network marketing business, brand, bank account, and impact on those around you. And just remember, network marketing is not easy, but it can be made easy with simple steps to create the success that you truly deserve. Welcome to episode 158 of the Network Marketing Made Simple podcast. And if you are a new listener, then welcome. And if you are a returning listener, then welcome back. And as always, if you are a network marketer, online business coach, new or old to your profession, and you are still building your business through the means of Facebook and Instagram, and you are still not leveraging and harnessing the power and potential that LinkedIn can have on your business, impact, and bank account, then head over to my website, www.scottaaron.net, where you can fill out a form to schedule a free 15-minute discovery call with me where I can learn more about you, your business, what you're struggling with, and how we could potentially work together. So I'm super excited about today's episode, and I get more excited when my passion being LinkedIn actually leads me to connecting with someone on LinkedIn, and then we find out that we both have podcasts, and then we come on each other's podcasts, and it's just one of those synergistic things that, you know, is always meant to happen. You guys have heard me talk about this before, and you've probably heard it from other people, but nothing happens by accident. Everything happens on and for a purpose. And my guest today is the co-founder of Level 5 Mentoring, which works with high achievers and people really looking to do big things. But more importantly, he's also the host of the podcast Future of Fitness, which I was a guest on. But what I love about what this amazing human being is doing is he's truly living his best life. And he's going to share a little bit about his nomadic background and how him and his wife have been bouncing around the beautiful country that we live in the United States, but how that's kind of fueled his passion and purpose behind what he brings not only to his coaching, but to his incredible podcast. So with that being said, Eric Malzone, welcome to today's podcast.
Scott, thank you so much, man. Great intro. And so many of the things that you're saying during that intro, I was just nodding my head in agreement about, the power of serendipity and how, us finding each other on LinkedIn and seeing so many common interests. And man, you're my people. I'm super excited to be here, and I'm really looking forward to offering as much value as I can in this conversation. So thanks for having me.
Me too, brother, and the feeling is mutual. So let's do a deep dive before we go into the Level 5 mentoring and the podcast. Tell us a little bit about Eric and his background. Obviously, we all have a journey. So what was your journey that lit this entrepreneurial bug to obviously stepping into what you're doing now?
Yeah. So stories can go long or they can go short, and they always are different every time I tell them. But in a synopsis, I'm a Northern California kid. I was born and raised in the Silicon Valley before it was all of that. In fact, I was just visiting there, and man, it's changed over the last 40 years. Athlete most of my life. I played water polo and swam. Those were my sports, very California things to do. And those put me all the way through college and even into club teams after school. And when I started my actual business life career was after college, and I got into, that was in 1999, 2000. So for those who remember, it was the dot-com bust. Everything blew up. Jobs weren't hard to find at that time. So I got into the first one I could get, which was a sales job. And I turned out to be okay at it. For about 10 years, I did various forms of sales and marketing, from recruitment to radio advertisement to real estate finance to legal publishing, you named it. And I excelled in every job I had, managing sales teams nationally as well. And it was good. But I started to see fast forward of what my life would look like if I stayed on that path. And I didn't like it. I just didn't like attending these, national sale conferences every quarter, and, dealing with the drama of a corporate setting and all those things. And people who have been in that are nodding their head like, yeah, I get it. And so when in 2008, I got a text message from an old friend and college teammate, and it was a very simple message, said, "Hey, do you want to open a gym?" And I remember this distinctly, Scott, because I was about to go. I was living in San Francisco, and I was about to go to happy hour on a Friday, and I got the message, and it took me one beer to reply and say yes. And this was back when it was like T9, so it was like 777 444. That's how you texted. And I told him yes. And his name was Traver Boehm. His name is Traver Boehm. And fast forward 6 months later, I had all my earthly belongings in the back of my car and in the trailer. And I'm driving from San Francisco down to Santa Barbara, which was a town I had never been in, nor that I know anybody. And I was opening a gym. And that was CrossFit Pacific Coast. And in 2009, 2008 timeframe, a couple of things were happening. Most notably the economic crisis that we dealt with at that time, and CrossFit wasn't really known yet. So it was, a lot of people thought we were crazy, and maybe we were, but we started with a little 800 square foot spot, right in the funk zone of Santa Barbara, California. And slowly but surely, there was no digital marketing, there was no social media back then. We started out knocking on doors, telling people who we were, what we did. And over a span of 9 years, built that thing from 800 square feet to 5,000 square feet, from 0 members to over 250, and had a solid, $500,000 business riding on, 25 to 30% profit margins, and now taking equity partnerships in different gyms in the area as well. So things were going good. And, there's a lot that goes into that period of 8 to 9 years about growing that business and the struggles and things like that. But really what happened was in 2016, which launched me on my current path, is my wife and I just had for all intents and purposes, a pretty bad year. We were pregnant and then we lost it late. That was shortly followed by the death of her father quickly at age 61. He died of a heart attack. Then I lost a dear friend of mine who passed away at the age of 38. And then to end the year, our dog passed away. So it was one of those things where things stacked up. And the reason I tell this isn't because I'm not looking for sympathy, but it's just, I think everybody has moments in their lives where, I call it that thing, that thing that happens that changes you. And if you don't know what that thing is yet in your life, whether it's, a car accident or a loss of a loved one or something like that, it's going to happen and it changes you. And at that point, going into the beginning of 2017, my chemistry had changed. What I wanted, what I had succeeded in getting, was no longer what I wanted. And it really shifted my mindset from someday, my wife and I always said, well, someday we'll go live in a mountain town. Someday we'll go visit these areas. Someday we'll get this cool adventure van that we've always talked about. And things changed from someday to, well, let's do it now. And when I came home, I believe it was February of 2017, I told my wife, I'm like, when I want to sell the gym. She was shocked. I'm like, yeah, I think it's ready. I want to go live in that mountain town. And she's like, I remember, she's like, do not mess with me. If you are serious, then, tell me you're serious. I'm like, I'm deadly serious. So I started the process of finding buyers and going through that. And selling a small business isn't necessarily easy, especially a gym. And there's a lot like selling a house. There's always something that comes up within the selling period. And sure enough, it did. But long story short, we sold it. Sold the other stakes in the other gyms, and we hit the road. And we've, been traveling and living and working in many different areas all over Western North America, really from Oregon to Washington to Vancouver Island to the Gulf Islands to chunks of British Columbia to a lot. And right now we're in Whitefish, Montana for our third winter ski season. And we tend to live life in a way of, well, who knows if tomorrow's guaranteed. So if we want to do the things we want to do, let's do them now. And also keeping one eye on the future. And as far as from a business standpoint, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do when I sold the gym, to be quite honest. I started working on digital marketing solutions for gym owners, soon realized that, hey, that's a highly competitive market. I also really don't enjoy doing it. And I tried a couple other things and, some success, some failure. As entrepreneurs do, we look for problems, right? We're looking for problems to solve. But the one thing that I started and have not stopped is podcasting. And I started my Future Fitness podcast, I think shortly thereafter is December of 2017. I've done about 160 something episodes, including yours, Scott, 170 now actually. And I also had another one for a while called the Fitness Blitz Radio, which was my networking podcast. And we can talk about how I use that to build my network. And I did about 370 episodes there. So within a span of 2 years, I've recorded almost 600 episodes, all within the fitness, health, and wellness industry, and subsequently increased my network dramatically, and have started to really put a name for myself out there. And from a business standpoint, I started mentoring a lot of people on the side. And then I met my current business partner and mentor, Ken Andruko, about a year ago on my travels. We just happened to be in the same place, and he invited me to his mountain home out in British Columbia. And we drank some bourbon. We got to know each other. We kind of talked about what it means to be a coach and a mentor, and made sure that our values aligned. And that's where Level 5 Mentors came from. And the point of what we do when we coach people and we run workshops and we do all the things that we do is that most entrepreneurs are solely focused on the money, which is important. It's not unimportant, right? It really is. It's a big part of what we do, but we really thought about, well, boil it down to what is it that entrepreneurs want, right? Well, they want to make a change. Obviously they want to make impact, but they want freedom. So we isolated that down. We're like, well, what freedoms are we really talking about? Well, number one, you have to have your freedom of health. If you're not healthy, nothing else matters. It doesn't matter. I recently lost my father about 30 days ago. And I can tell you the last 6 to 9 months of his life, he was unhealthy, and he was not thrilled with every day waking up. It was a challenge, and it wasn't all the money that he accumulated, all the friendships, all that stuff, all took second seat when your health isn't there. So we talk about the freedom of health. We talk about the freedom of time, the freedom of money. That's hugely important. The freedom of relationships and the freedom of purpose. So essentially you do what you want, when you want, with whoever you want. And that's what we help people achieve, is getting to that level of freedom within entrepreneurship. And, so that's my story. Hope I didn't go too long, but that's what I've been up to.
No, that was amazing. And there's so many things that we can talk just from that. And I relate to so much of your story in so many ways, obviously coming from a health and wellness background, owning gyms and being a trainer, and all of the ups and downs of that. But, going through some trials and tribulations in your life, the ups and downs that can happen, and growing through it as you have done. And the one thing that I always really still focus on is, my health and wellness is my everything. My fiance and I, we really focus on taking care of ourselves, working out every single day, having a very healthy nutritional plan in place, healthy vitamins, focusing on our immune system, getting sleep, getting massages, doing meditation. And a lot of people, they don't understand. You can have all the money in the world, you can do everything you want, but if you're not healthy, you're not going to enjoy life the same way. You're not going to be able to do all of those things. And, my father, even though we've been through our fair share of ups and downs, to this day at 67 and a half, he is still competing in world bench press contests, and he has records in 2 different categories. And he's been, he's going to the Czech Republic, he's been to Japan, he's been to Panama. And I look at him still as motivation, because age is only a number. So
yes.
Before we go through a bunch of other stuff, there's a lot of people that listen to this that say, I don't know if you can agree with this, but for me, it's easier now than ever, in my opinion, and you can give me your opinion on this. It's easier now than ever to be healthy, with the amount of free resources that are out there, with the amount of gyms that are out there, with actually how a lot of food companies are producing healthier versions of things that once were. There's a lot more whole grain. There's a lot of gluten free. There's a lot of dairy free and allergen free. With everything that is available to us resource wise, why do you feel it's still hard for people to really take control of their health?
Ah, man, that's a stacked question. And I agree. I think ultimately, and I was just talking to my business partner Ken about this, is that I think life honestly is just too easy, Scott. I know it sounds crazy, but you think about, like, I mean, at least here in North America, right? When was the last time we had a war in our homeland, right? When was the last time we had famine? When was the last time we had anything that truly challenged us, outside of, uh, some social media post that somebody, ticked us off? And I think it is way easier. I think it's become too convenient, and people lean on those conveniences, and then they lose the fundamental things. Like, just what if everyone learned how to cook, right? I mean, that would be tremendous. People wouldn't need to, they wouldn't need processed food, right? They wouldn't need, that's like the fundamentals. And I can't tell you why. I have a colleague here in the fitness and health industry. His name's Max Shank. He's done very well for himself as a writer and doing online programs and as a trainer. And he has this very simple analogy. It's like, well, most people in the fitness industry tend to make things more complicated than they have to be. So he looks at it this way. There's a couple different levels. Number one, are you healthy as a plant? Right? So do you get enough water and some sunshine every day? Most of the Americans cannot say that they do. That's the fundamental. Number two is, are you healthy as a dog? Are you getting enough water, sunshine, and you going out for a walk, right? Number four is healthy as a monkey. Are you getting water, sunshine, play, swinging from some things? And that's it. And he keeps going and going and going. But I don't have a good answer to why people are unhealthy right now. I think it's just the things are too easy, or maybe I'm looking at it from my own unique standpoint, is that maybe some people are working too much, right? Um, Maybe they have two jobs and they don't have time to cook. I think it's different. And I think we have to look at that question contextually with each different case. But overall, I just think things are too easy, and it's too simple to grab something off a shelf that's wrapped in plastic. It's too easy to stop by McDonald's. It's too easy to go for the simple way of you know sitting down and doing Netflix versus actually going outside and having to do some work and chop some wood, right? It's just convenience is almost killing us.
I can completely agree. But in addition to that, as in life, just like our health, it's about choice. And I
Yes.
think you're either going to choose to be healthy or you're going to choose to be unhealthy. And listen, I consider myself a very diligent and healthy person, but I love my red wine. I
Mhm.
love my ice cream. I love
Yeah.
hamburgers, and I eat those things. I do not hold myself back from enjoying those things, but moderate. And this goes back to my 18 years of personal training and 65,000 hours of spending time with people. I preached living in moderation.
Okay.
Moderation is everything. If you're not abusing certain things, and the way that I broke it down was like this: if you are eating 5 times a day, 7 days a week, that's 35 meals. Of those 35 meals, if 10% of them are cheat meals, quote unquote, so 3 to 4 of those are off the reservation type meals, you're going out, you're having this, you're having that. You really think if you're having 4 unhealthy meals out of 35, you're really going to not look and feel good? 31 healthy, and that's the thing. It's when the needle sways in the direction of more unhealthy than healthy, because your body, no matter what people say, your body needs some cheat meals. You can't eat super clean all the time because your body needs sometimes some excess fat or higher levels of sodium or extra calories. So your body actually needs those types of things. But again, when the needle is swayed in that one direction where you're having too many unhealthy and not enough healthy, that's when things start to take that turn. Now, my other point is this: the older you get, the more diligent you have to be about your health.
Yes.
You can Google any health hack you want. I'm sorry. You can't hack everything in life. As you get older, your metabolism is going to slow down. You have to protect your body, you have to protect your joints, and you do have to be more mindful. So you do have to take all of those things into consideration. I remember as a kid, and I'm sure you do too, it was no thing to go to the local pizzeria and get 2 pieces of Sicilian and a side of mozzarella cheese fries with ranch dressing on the side, eat the entire thing, and nothing happens because
Right.
our metabolisms are different when we're 15 and
It
16
was
years old.
amazing. It was
So
amazing.
it was amazing. And I remember I had fast food all the time. Like I used to go to Wendy's and McDonald's and Burger King as a kid because I'm not preaching for you to take your kids and do that if you're listening to this, but I'm just saying times have changed. Things are different now, but we can come back to that. But my biggest thing is this, all the things that you shared with obviously losing a child and losing your father and your father-in-law and a close friend, all within the last 10 to 12 years. What have those lessons taught you about life that you have now brought into your mentoring and your podcast and your coaching with those that you work with?
I've been reflecting on that particular point quite a bit, Scott, especially over the last 2 weeks. And it's funny. I was having a conversation with my sister yesterday, and we both found that in recent weeks, since our father's passed, that we simply have less F's to give about things that aren't important. And I think that's the biggest thing that as I put more days on this planet, is that I only concern myself with things that matter because, hey, I'm just as good as anybody else at staying busy. If I want to stay busy, I'll stay busy. But does it really mean anything to me? Who are the conversations I'm having? Am I pleasing people because of some existential reason I can't put my finger on, or is it serving me? I think ultimately, as you realize over time, and Joe Rogan, who's one of my favorite podcasts, like of all time, and I'm sure many, millions of people share that thing, but he talks about it in very simple ways. Like, you look at it, you only have 100 of units of energy to give every day. So who are you going to give that 100 those units to? Who is it going to be? Things that are serving you, or is it going to be things that are growing, that are nurture you, that are really making a difference? And that's where I focus now. Like I don't work more than 30 hours a week because I know that if I put a hard stop on myself at 2 p.m. every day, I'm going to do only the most important things, and everything else self-selects itself out, right? Either it's not urgent enough, or it just simply wasn't important enough to me. And just by doing those simple things and really respecting the amount of time that I have every day, that's the biggest thing is you only have so much time. I don't want, like, people, if you don't reflect on your own mortality on a daily basis, then you're missing out, because that's what makes you realize you only have so much time. And each minute of the day, if you're wasting it, you're not going to get it back. And we're so worried about money and belongings and all these things. And at the end of the day, when my father passed, the house he had, the money he had, the bank account, it didn't mean shit. Sorry for swearing, but it didn't mean anything. And that's what people need to understand. The biggest commodity we have is our time. And that's one of the reasons we have level 5 mentors, is we don't want people wasting their time. Because I've seen a lot of people who make a lot of money, Scott, I'm sure you have too, but they're miserable. They have no time in the day. They're trading all of that for, taking out of their bank of health, right? Or taking away from their family time, taking away from all the things that they truly value. So I think, to answer your question, is I truly am striving to understand my values, and then I'm putting my time as the most precious thing possible. And those are the things that I find have really led me to a higher quality of life as well.
It's interesting. I remember watching a video by Sadhguru, and I'm not sure if you've ever heard of him. He's an
No.
Indian yogi, and you
Okay.
should absolutely look him up. And
Okay.
he actually speaks on exactly what you talked about, which is mortality versus immortality. And he said it's foolish for people to think that they're mortal. No one is free from death. You know,
Right.
our own mortality is important to not think about, but to say that you're immortal, you're never going to die, you're going to live 1,000 years. I'm sorry, it's just not realistic. This isn't a movie.
Right.
And he said, but he goes, between you and me, to think that you're immortal, he goes, people will get sick of you. He goes, and he goes, here's the absolute truth. He said, when you when you understand that we are all mortal, and when he said, when you can also understand that there are 1 million people every single day around the world that do not open their eyes, you will have a new self-reflection of life.
Yes.
And when you wake up and you can see the ceiling above you, you've already won the day.
Yes.
And most people, Eric, don't even conceptually see waking up as a victory. And
No.
it is. And we and Sadhguru went on to say that we take too much advantage of the days that we're given. And then when something happens, whether it's an illness or a death, then all of a sudden we're turning the mirror around, and then we have to have that reality and that gut check. But why wait for something bad to happen to realize the most important time we have is right now? And this is something that I also learned reading the book The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle.
So good.
And he said that there's three types of people. There's people that live in fear, there's people that live in anxiety, and there's people that live in peace. And he said the people that live in fear are the ones that are living for the future. They're always thinking ahead. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? Hasn't happened yet, so you can't control it. And then those people that live in anxiety are the ones that are thinking about their past, which has already happened, which you can't change. But then you have that group of people that live in peace, which means they're living in the now. And if you're listening to this, the only time that you can absolutely control with 100% certainty is right now. So when you can focus on the now, you're living in peace each and every day. And it's so important. So with that being said, Eric, how important is it? And I completely agree with you. The greatest commodity that we all have is our time. What good is all this money that people are making if they're just miserable, right? What's the point of all that? If you end up having all that money in these accounts and you end up passing away, well, you haven't lived. So
No.
how important is it, Eric, for people to wake up, no matter how young or how old they are, to start living right now?
It's everything, Scott. It really is. And, I still I strive to live like that, to make sure that every day is important to me and that I touch on the things that I value on a daily basis. And, I have my morning routine just like you do, and they help me reflect on that. And I don't get there every day. Everybody, it's a process. And that Power of Now book should be fundamental reading for human beings all over the planet, because it could change humanity. And I strive for it, and I don't always get there. I still get caught up in anxiety about the future and what that holds. And sometimes I let the past bring me down or bring me up. And it's a struggle every day. We're not wired that way. We have to practice it. And, whether it being you just set an alarm every day to simply take 5 deep breaths and look around and notice the miracles that surround you, because everything's a miracle. The fact that the universe just functions the way it does, and the sun does come up every day, and we can actually breathe, and the amazing thing that our human body is, and the anatomy within it, and how resilient it is. Like, these are all miracles, right? And I don't know what your people's religious stake is, but there's something out there. There's a power bigger than us that's making all this go around. And if you can't just take a minute every day and reflect on all of that every day, oh, I woke up again. I can tell you, I was so close to my father's passing, Scott. I was there. I was the person who found him. Um, I tried to do, CPR to get him back. I was there, and at all that thing that happened, all I wanted was geez, I wish I had just gotten to have coffee with him that morning. That's all I wanted. I just wanted that moment, right? And how important that one moment, I would trade all of the money in my bank account right now for that one moment. And it takes stuff like that, unfortunately, as a human being and just the way we're wired, to shake us out of it, right? To realize that, and it's sad. It's sad that it takes a traumatic moment or some kind of loss or some kind of earth rattling event, right? To get us to realize how important our life is. And if there's one thing, I mean, I hope if there's one thing that people are listening to this podcast, if they can just be like, oof, yeah, they're right. I need to take a whole nother look at how I'm living my life. Then I think, we've done a really good service to people today. So it's a complicated thing, man. These are really complicated issues, and it's something that people need to take and just sit on and think about and meditate on a daily, if not hourly basis. Because if you don't think about your mortality every day, I used to joke at the end of classes at my gym, I would tell people, okay, go on a cool down walk and, contemplate your own mortality. But I wasn't kidding. Like, really think about it, right? Because maybe you'll start to think of, we have to walk that line of like, well, I'm planning for the future, but I also need to live right now. And I think that's the struggle that most people should be, if that's your struggle, is how do I balance living for today and also planning for the future, then you're asking yourself the right questions.
I
And
complete, yeah,
that's where people should be at.
I totally agree. And it's also one of those things where it's not about thinking about our own deaths, but it's really knowing that we're not going to be here forever, which causes us to really sit within each day and really, and I talk about this all the time on social media and even in podcasts, that there's victories every single day that you're having. You're just not paying attention to them, the littlest
Yeah.
things. And just like you said, no matter, I'm grateful that I still have, two grandparents, and, I make it a point to spend as much time as I can with them, being, 41 now and still having two grandparents. It's amazing to me. So, and again, you don't know how many of those moments you're going to get. So you make the best of all of them, and don't leave any stone unturned. And all these life principles that we've been talking about, Eric, you can also apply to business. And there's so many network marketers
Mhm.
and online coaches that listen to this, that, it's not that they're taking their life and their businesses for granted, but you have to go all in. I think there's a
Yes.
lot of people that are they're playing too small, and they're thinking, oh, if you really want something, you're going to go for it. So before we start to wind down, talk a little bit about the coaching program, the level 5 mentoring, and the types of clients that you help, and where that client is prior to working with you guys, and where they are exiting, learning exactly the principles and the methodologies that you guys teach.
Yeah. Yeah. And thanks for asking that. And it's an ever evolving thing. Ken and I started with working with people one-on-one. And it's actually happened quite organically, as, I would get referred to somebody and I'd start coaching them. And then I'm like, oh, maybe I should charge for this. That's how it all started. And, I've been actually coaching and mentoring people for quite some time, either in the realm of fitness or entrepreneurship. And now, in 2020, as we migrate to a workshop model where we do quarterly workshops, the whole goal is, we want to find, our goal is to impact people who impact other people, so we can magnify our impact on the world. Right. I know that sounds kind of ethereal, but that's really the goal. And the people we like to work with, people who have established businesses, but maybe are feeling, like, did I just buy myself a job? Right, by starting this whole entrepreneurship? Am I able to scale my business? Am I looking at my business in those 5 freedoms, of health, money, time, relationships, and purpose? And then if I feel like I'm missing out on one of them, we want to help you build the business that truly suits your values and your lifestyle. uh, and that's what we strive to go. And people just get stuck, and you need help. You need perception, right? You need someone who can, or perspective, sorry, someone who can come and look at things from, because we get stuck in the weeds as entrepreneurs really quickly. And they have someone who can help you see what's going on, see the blind spots, see the things that you can't see, and then help you build a plan to get to the next level of where you want to be. And a lot of people are going through the motions on a day-to-day basis with no clarity of actually what they want out of life. And the beauty about entrepreneurship is that we're creating these things, we're solving these problems to help people and build this lifestyle that we want, but we're oftentimes very unclear on what it is that we actually want. So that's phase one, is like, well, what really is your vision? And it's not, people talk about vision and all that, but no, what is it really detailed? I have, every morning I listen to a 3.5-minute recording of myself talking to myself about exactly what my life's going to be like in 1 year, 1 to 5 years. Right. I am so clear on from the type of home that we have, the view that I have when I'm working every day, the car that I drive, how many hours I'm working, how many weeks a month we're traveling, all of these. I'm so clear on that if everything seems easier because I know exactly the direction I'm going. I know what to say yes to and what to say no to. So we want to help entrepreneurs who just feel stuck, maybe feel that, they know they want to be an entrepreneur. They don't know why, and they don't know where they're suffering, or where they're lacking in their business. And that's the goal. We have a whole different set of metrics that most people go by, and we feel that they're the most important ones.
Amazing. So before we get to my final question, how can people find out more about you on social media, and how they can connect with Level 5 Mentoring, and how people can, obviously learn more about how they can work with you and take themselves and their businesses to the next level?
Yeah, man. Thank you for asking. So if you just go to Level 5 Mentors, LEVEL, the number 5 mentors.com, that's the number one place. I also, like you, Scott, I'm very active on LinkedIn. That's my preferred social media. But you can also find me on Facebook and Instagram, and it's just Eric Malzone, Malzone, and also the Future of Fitness podcast. So there's not many Eric Malzones out there. I think there's one in the States and there's one in Brazil. So I'm the one in the States.
Awesome. So pretty easy to find.
Yeah.
Well, I first wanted to just thank you for your openness and your transparency and your vulnerability. That's something that I'm big on. And those are some superpowers that we all possess, but some people just are fearful of letting them out. So I'm just grateful for you, and, for you sharing your story. And final question before we head off into the sunset is, what does success truly mean to you?
Yeah. Oh man. I put a lot of thought into that, as you probably can imagine. But for me, success is living a life that doesn't necessitate vacation.
Wow. Well, there's really not much more you can say over top of that, because again, with clarity comes so many different things. And like you, myself and my fiance have such clarity on what we want to achieve. And obviously we've, recently purchased our dream home and all of those things. And as long as you can get clarity and you can focus on them, they can absolutely become your reality. So Eric, thank you again so much for spending some time with myself and my audience. And all of the contact info that you mentioned will be in the show notes so people can reach out to you. And I highly encourage you guys listening to this, please take a screenshot of this. Obviously you can post this on Instagram, and you guys know my handle @ScottAaron LinkedIn, but you can also mention this on LinkedIn, and we would love to hear what your takeaways were and are. And Eric, thank you so much again for being here today.
Yeah. Thank you, Scott. I really appreciate it, man. It means a lot.
Absolutely. So guys, I hope you found this episode helpful. Please enjoy the rest of your days, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you again so much for checking out this week's episode. And if you can, head over to iTunes, search for Network Marketing Made Simple, leave me a 5-star rating, basic review. I would be grateful for all of the support you guys can give me. And again, if you'd be interested in learning more how to utilize LinkedIn to grow your business, your brand, and your bank account, head over to my website, www.scottaaron.net. Fill out the form for your free 15-minute discovery call so I can learn more about you, your business, and how we can work together. And again, thank you guys so much. Grateful for you all, and I'll see you next time.